Hi, everyone. It's going to be a phenomenal show.
Yeah, that gong. It was halfway across the table there.
Welcome to the Checked Out Podcast, the Retail Stories Podcast. I'm Doug Sprankle.
And I'm Ryan Sprankle.
Guys, super excited. Ryan, before we get started, I got to tell you a quick story. 25 years ago, I used to work that was my first job as outside the family. I was a hostess at the Outback Steakhouse at PNC Park. And my first chance to meet our guest today, I was there at the hostess table, day 2 in the job, and here comes Jeff Verszyla walking into the building. Super great guy, cordial guy, very nice. But it's funny, the pressure having a local legend like that come into the restaurant and then have the crew say, hey, don't mess it up.
That'd be a lot of pressure. I felt pressure, having him on today. I mean, he's a big name, great guy, but what a great guy. He's just a genuine good dude. So,
and the whiteboard's back, baby.
Whiteboard is back. I'm excited to watch the whiteboard every day, for sure. But hey, it's time to recognize our headline sponsor. What makes this all possible? PASkillAlliance.org. Play genuine Pennsylvania skill games. Find a Sprankles Market or a reputable local
Fraternal Order, VFW, American Legion, nonprofit guys across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's powered by Pace. It's a game that helps put jerseys on kids for their teams. It helps put firefighter, help them buy new trucks, and it helps the community in so many different ways. And it's under attack. It have less than 80 days from today to get it passed in the legislature. They need your help. Go to PA Skill Alliance, see what's going on, but get involved, guys, and help save skill games for all those organizations.
And remember, guys, it is skill,
not luck, baby.
Skill, not luck, baby. So, Doug, what do we got on the agenda for today?
So much today, Mike. One of my favorite cities, the Windy City, Chicago. There's a lot of great stuff coming from Chicago. Talking about mega centers, talking about the trends, talking about parking meters in Apollo today, which is kind of going to be fun, and much, much more.
And, of course, the guest is legend of Western Pennsylvania weather world, Jeff Verszyla.
Can't wait. It's a great episode, guys. Let's get right into it. Ryan, what's happening this week?
I mean, there's a lot happening this week. We had the family trip to Canada, and we had, obviously, the Fort Armstrong Folk Festival going on in Katanning, Katanning store, Katanning area, Armstrong County. It's one of the biggest events, so that's huge. But today, and it kind of stemmed from that, every day we have our plan. And I get up, I have my plan, and I'm starting to fire away through stuff, and it was like, it's one of those beautiful mornings where, Doug and I both at 6:30, you can attest this, at 6:30 to 8:30 hour is like mass production. Like, is that the same for you?
It's the time.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you ever see the movie Greyhound?
No.
It's about the World War II destroyers that basically crossed the Atlantic, covering the convoy of supplies.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden the 15 U-boats roll up, and it's like, torpedo!
Yeah. Yeah, that's when the torpedoes started.
9 o'clock, the torpedoes hit.
Well, yeah. I think that was about the time. It was right before that because, So I'm just smoking through stuff. So then I get a call from Tiff, general manager in Katanning. She's handling the festival, ordering and everything. She calls me, and she doesn't usually call me, like hardly ever. She just handles stuff. Calls me, says, hey, we got a problem. I'm like, what's the problem? She's like, they had a record-setting opening night, and that the quantities we ordered were almost half short on all the main quantities. Well, the festival is huge for downtown, but it always falls in a dead spot for the store. So it's a win-win. We support it. We sponsor it. They give us a lot of business, and we help supply them. So we can't, not give them what they need, have them go somewhere else. No, we need that business. So she gave me her list, huge list. And I had remembered that I had given lent my truck to Colt for the week for steakout cheesesteaks. And I had his little car. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll go grab that, secondary supplier. I can go pick it up. And then I'm like, whoa, I'm short. There's no way I'm getting this in this car. So then I call you.
I'm glad you're short.
It was funny. You said about 9 o'clock. It was like, remember you said, can you be ready by 9 o'clock? So it must have been right before that.
Oh, yeah, no. And then it's funny because I forgot how big of a guy I am. Because I drive a truck. And then all of a sudden I get into his little Subaru WRX, this little car. And then it's a stick. So you got to do some shifting going on. So I'm sitting in the car and literally when I sit in that car at a normal seat, width, my head, there's a top of the windshield. I'm like driving like this. And it's funny because I'm driving on the road and everybody's looking at me like this, like.
That is funny. I didn't even think about that. But it is a fun car to drive.
Oh, no. I definitely got my miles worth.
And your truck, man, that's a sweet ride. Doug just upgraded his truck, and it's a first time I've ever driven a Dodge. It's very nice. But so I go down, I get the shipment. I got all the supplies. I loaded Doug's new truck with all this stuff. And I'm coming back up 28. And all of a sudden, I'm driving up 28, and, you catch the billboards and stuff, especially once you get out of the past like Etna. It starts to free up a little bit. I noticed this billboard on the right, and I'm like, "Oh, that guy! Those people are familiar." And all of a sudden, I see this thing. It was an Oliver billboard, and I see congratulations, Emma and Noah, and our editor, Noah Oliver Pro Wash, just got engaged out in the Grand Tetons.
Gong it! We're so excited for Noah and Emma. Great couple.
This is so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
How
so
cool.
funny to see that. I'm like, I was like, oh, wow. So then I get past that, and I come up to Katanning, and because, just like you said, torpedoes, I wasn't factoring a 2.5 hour project. Really it was 3 hours trying to figure out what we needed, then getting that, then going down, getting it.
And then delivering it.
Delivering it.
Yeah.
So I didn't factor that into my day, obviously. And so one of the things on my agenda was, we had a big guest today. I wanted to look good. I wanted to tidy up the beard, which I did. You had to wait on me while I did that. Then I wanted to get my hair cut. And I know I wear a hat for this. It's not like events where I don't wear a hat, but I wear a hat, but still you want to look clean. So I didn't have time to stop and get a haircut. So I'm in the office at Katanning, and I'm like, I gotta get a haircut. And I said, Shay, can you cut my hair? And she's like, I said, I just need the, around the ears. And she's like, Bree's better for that. She went to school for that in high school. So literally Bree whips out the, 1999 scissors that we haven't used in 20 years.
That are super dull.
Super dull and big and bulky. And she's like going to surgery in the office, giving me a trim around the ears. Anyways, we made it.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
Oh, one last thing real quick. Sorry. Then I'm taking your truck, and I didn't want to return it empty. I didn't want to return it empty. So I pull over on Worthington, the guy with all the American flags and stuff. I go into the pump. First of all, I figured out where your pump was. I go in the pump, get out, look, bag over the pump. And it's on like dangerous low. So then I'm going up and around. You have to go the whole way up and around to that red light and then back to that Jiffy place. I do that. It was a nightmare. The whole thing was just, the day was what you just said about the torpedoes.
Well, they had a gas.
Huh?
Or they had a gas.
No, thankfully they had gas. I filled it up.
Yeah, there's a hole in that tank, man. It just drains.
Yeah, it's a monster. It's a man's truck.
It's a man's truck. No. While you were out there trying to figure out a gas station, I figured out I have a problem in the house. A problem. So about 2 weeks ago, I go into I'm a leftover guy. I like leftovers. I have leftovers. So I have a little container. I put leftovers. And so I go into my container, and I'm chewing through this beef stew, and all of a sudden I hit something crunchy, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? I was like, what was that? And so then I'm like, that's weird. So then, I finish eating it, and then this morning I get up, and I go downstairs, and Uncle Jack, who lives with us, was there. And I saw the man take a big spoon, go into the leftovers, put it on top, the wetness of the leftovers into the dog food, stir it up, realize he didn't have enough wet stuff, go back into the leftovers, and then back into the dog food, stir it up again, throws a spoon out.
Oh, my God.
I was like, what?
God.
Come on!
Oh, that's so brutal. That's so brutal. It reminds me a little bit of on Christmas Vacation where the older lady mixes in the cat food with her Jell-O mold, and people were like,
Yeah.
Ellie, that was a little better.
Yeah?
You've actually been eating after your dog.
For a decade. For a decade. So we're gonna have the conversation tonight about proper food handling etiquette. You know what though? I'm gonna cheat the system. I'm just gonna do stuff the dog can't eat. It's like lens, it's closed, gone.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
That is so brutal. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. On that note, it's time for this week's retail stereotype. We've all worked with them. We've all managed them, and honestly, some of us have been one at some point or another.
Valid. Guys, is this week retail stereotype? It's the bathroom camper.
The bathroom camper, man, the phantom employee. You look at the schedule, they're on the clock, but as you walk the floor, man, you can't find them.
And as a manager, it's a nightmare. You're like, hey, where you been? They're like, I just went to the bathroom. You look at your watch. It's like, that's 35 minutes ago.
Yeah, I mean, and they always time it perfect, too. I mean, it's always like they always decide to vanish into the bathroom right before your afternoon rush, right before you have a milk truck that just came in that needs work. I mean, it's always during a critical time.
You know, I've really noticed this in airports. Airport bathrooms, there's people with their little suitcase, their lunch in there the whole time. Like if you're a man trying to use a hotel or the airport bathroom, you notice how they're always full?
Oh, yeah.
It's because workers at the airport dodge work, and then there's weirdos that get off their plane like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make myself a little perch here. I'm going to go in the bathroom, and I'm just going to sit here and work on my emails.
Like a temporary office.
Yeah, but why would you want to be in there listening to the symphony of noises?
Actually, it's not a bad idea. But they design it for that, though, in a way, because they have those dispensers for the toilet paper that are like this wide. So, like, I could see where somebody could actually set up a laptop and then have their phone stationed here and just go to work. Not that I'm going to do that.
Well, think about this.
Just saying.
So they get done. They get done.
They
doing
kind
their
of
thing.
designed it poorly.
Well, I agree, but now they get down to their thing, right? So now all the particles from that room are now on their laptop, on their phone, on their briefcase, on their hands. They wash their hands, but they go back touching their phone and laptop again, and they go, "Hey, Ryan, it's good to see you." Sharing the wealth.
I still might take that over eating after my dog.
But you know what? It's a strategic retreat. But one thing is, it just didn't start now. People have been hiding in the bathroom for work for literally decades, if not centuries.
Yeah, I mean, toilet slacking in the 50s, factory workers in Italy would actually meet up in the bathroom and have private organizational meetings.
It was like a tactical retreat/meeting center.
Yeah, I mean, and it gets crazier. Companies have been trying to fight the bathroom camper for decades. In 2014, a Chicago company issued a monitor to measure how long their employees were in the restrooms. And a few years ago in the UK, they designed a toilet called Standard Toilet.
Which actually makes the toilet seat, guys, if you can imagine this, at a 13-degree slope. So it's very uncomfortable to use that toilet.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting there looking down. You're doing a wall sit. Basically, it's forcing you to do a modified wall sit, trying to escape just sliding under the door out into the open public. I mean, it's brilliant, man.
How do you handle your bathroom campers at the store?
Honestly, at Katanning, it's not an issue because, the front end people generally use the one upstairs bathroom. And so let's face it, when somebody leaves the front end in a small store, it's noticed. So from the time they leave, everybody else is like, when are they getting back? Because it creates a lot of strain when they're gone. So, and they know there's that urgency. So you really have kind of built in and like defense system there. And then the public one, people in Katanning, they're not afraid to, in my later story, we'll find out a little bit more, but people aren't afraid to knock. So I think people go in there knowing, okay, I got to get in there, take care of things, and get out.
You know how I handle it? If I know somebody's abusing the system, I walk into the bathroom, and everybody knows my voice. I mean, it's a very recognizable voice. I'm like this, "Hi, anybody in there?" And all of a sudden I hear it like this, and the phone drops, and they're like shaking. And then I wait outside, and they walk out, and I'm like, "Hey, some guy just had to leave because he's been waiting too long." And I make it really awkward so they don't do it again. But my next tactic, though, they make RDF paint now, where it basically blocks all cell phone signals, all Wi-Fi signals. Paint the wall. If you paint the wall and the ceiling with that color, basically it prevents any kind of signals from entering that room.
Creates like a cooler freezer effect.
A Faraday cage. Faraday cage, same idea. No signals go through it. So you basically build your own Faraday cage in the bathroom so people can't get reception there. They stop doing it.
I think for sure Saxonburg and Leechburg, because there's so much more bathroom space, so much more accessible, so much more private. I think that's a great idea, honestly. There you go. For all you business owners out there, there's a nugget Doug just gave you.
Which takes us into Ryan's origin story.
This week's origin story is the history of our mom and dad's current house, the house that, you really grew up in. I was around, I was in college, but mom and dad, when they bought the store here, first store in Leechburg, we said it before, they started off commuting from Huntington 2.5 hours. Well, eventually, obviously, that didn't last, and they wanted to build a house. Found a beautiful piece of property that a guy put up for sale on top of a hill with an amazing view in Gilpin Township. They built a home, and they've lived there since 2000. And so it really has been a historical part of our your young adult, and my adult life. Our kids were there. We spent a ton of time there, ton of holidays there, big parties, just a lot of great memories from there. And they're moving, so we helped them. We've been helping along the way with the whole situation.
Oh no, it's funny as kids, like, you just kind of go along with the flow, but then as an adult, you have to become like super active in your parents' decision processes / assist with the process. And it was funny, like, we have obviously our schedules. If you look at our schedules, it's just like, how do you get it all done? But Dad calls us up and calls us out and says, hey, we need some help at the barn to clean it out. And literally, I'm thinking to myself, Dad, just get a dumpster, just throw the whole thing in the dumpster. And if you recall, after we were done cleaning it out, it literally had he has a big tractor, so it's a John Deere tractor. Pull that out. We pulled it side by side out. After we were done cleaning it out, literally there was probably 20 milk crates of stuff that we actually saved. The rest of it in the dumpster.
Yeah, no, it was wild. And to Doug's point, the life of an independent grocer, man. This is what the calendar looks like on a Monday.
You working part-time?
There are. I feel guilty. There's a couple 15-minute white spots.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're working part-time.
It's wild. But to Doug's point, yeah. So we all got together and yeah, there was a huge dumpster. And one thing about you and I and Dad and Colt, we're all production guys and we're all efficiency guys. So Colt was smart, man, and he also knows. For those of you out there that don't know, people work harder and faster with music on. It's a trained thing. A mouse on his run with music playing, a mouse on his run without music playing, it's like 25%. So we got the music going.
Well, you got lucky because before you got there with the music, I had to sit there and negotiate for 45 minutes over whether or not we're going to keep the broken sledgehammer head. And I'm like, Dad, nobody's going to need that. He's like, we can get a new handle for it. I'm like, when was the last time you swung that sledgehammer? And I'm like, you know the last time I swung a sledgehammer was? He's like, what? I'm like, 10 years ago. And he's like, well, maybe that one. So that was one item. And then he's like, let me show you something else. And Dad's, he's struggling a little bit, but he's like, let me show you something else. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is going to be all day. So before you even got there, I'm like, this is the metal pile, this is the wooden pile, and this is the dumpster. I'm like, if it doesn't fit here and it's not a machine that you can actually give away. And literally, so then by the time you got there, we got through that 45-minute discussion, and you're like, hey guys, how's it going? And I'm like, I'm going to kill him.
Well, and a little background on Dad. He built our businesses and he built our brand with efficiency. He's a master of efficiency, and he doesn't waste anything, and he never throws anything away. But as he's progressed, it's I'd say it's full on. If it wasn't for Mom, it'd be full on hoarding. He's a hoarder.
Definitely.
He's a hoarder. And so, to Doug's point, they're having this 45-minute negotiation over a hammer, but there was literally 2,000 decisions to be made. So the first 45 minutes being one, you had to have been like, what is happening?
Well, no, I said, Dad's like, oh my God, I can't throw that away. I'm like, Dad, we got to throw it away. And the wood, he's had boards that were from 50 projects ago that he forgot about. And so nephew's up there on top of this ladder, and his eyes are like bloodshot because it's all the horse stuff, the raccoon stuff, the dust, the weather, whatever. He'd pull it down and be like, whew, all this dust. And he'd be like, I can't see.
He's a little cool, man. He's a worker, man. He's definitely a hustler. But it was cool though doing that together. I'm glad we were able to all do it together. I think Dad meant a lot to Dad. And as the day progressed, he got a little more comfortable. He hit some spots where he was obviously emotional a little bit, but like, I mean, understandable. It's a whole collection, but it was kind of cool going through, seeing all the different artifacts, revisiting all the deer antlers from years past, finding some of our, outlaws, uncles, bottles of vodka, empty bottles. One was full. One wasn't even open.
We should have drank that one.
Had them stashed. We should have drank it just as an ode. But it was cool just to see all of those things and all the old signs from the store. And by the end of the day, all the piles were put in. The barn was cleaned out. I think Dad felt pretty good about that. So, and I think he really appreciated us being there for the day. So that was really cool.
No, it was a cool opportunity.
Yeah. But that's the that's what's happening. That's the origin story. The family house was a big deal. Now parents are moving closer to us, and it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. You're visiting this weekend. I'm visiting them this weekend, and it'll be cool having them there.
Oh no, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke gets to hang out with them once a week, and so it's just a really good opportunity to have them closer to be able to be more involved.
Yeah. All right, Doug. It's a growing segment. People are really getting behind this segment, and it's really fun. And I mean, we have a good time with it. The corporate word of the week. And Doug, what piece of boardroom jargon are we going into today?
Guys, we're leaning in to this week's corporate word. Corporate word of the week is leaning in, which is used all across America.
Yeah, and I had a request from a very good customer and fan that we should challenge ourselves to use it in a way on here that like we would use it in our business life. And one thing right now that we're having trouble getting everybody to lean in towards. If I had to ask you one thing, one program that we're getting, it's tough getting everybody to lean into the program.
Consistency.
With what particular program?
Doing their job.
Oh, yeah. The meals, the mealtime solution.
Oh, that's so hard.
Like every department, basically, if you picture a transformer, every piece comes together to form this beautiful transformer. One of the big promotions we have through our warehouse is mealtime, figuring out meals for people by creating cost-effective meals that are easy, ready to go, and found all in one place in the store.
It's the schmore of the grocery store is taking items that traditionally work well together but might be throughout the store, putting them in one convenient location with either a portable freezer or cooler, dry goods, refrigerated items, and that way you just, bam, there's the meal for tonight. Plus, there's a huge digital coupon on it that allows the price to be extremely low.
Huge. And here's the math for you retailers out there, you managers out there. If you can solve one key meal and get people used to what's the meal for the week and get them coming in, if you get 50 new families to shop your store at $300 a week in sales, it's $15,000 a week in additional sales. It's such a great opportunity to capture the families and to get local families shopping at the local stores and give them incentive to do so. So it's huge. It's very important to the future of our small stores. Getting everybody to kind of believe that has been a challenge.
I think it's funny that we think that's the biggest challenge. Can you imagine being Odysseus back in Greek times and be like, all right, guys, listen, this is going to be crazy. We're gonna get on a boat and we're going to sail across the ocean to a place called Troy, and we're going to be there for at least 10 years. And most of you boys ain't making it back. And they're like, why are we doing this? Guys, some guy, not even me, some other king, his girlfriend ran off with another guy to Troy, and we're going to get her back. And you're thinking, I just want to plow my fields, drink my wine, and hang out with my wife and eat some olives. But no, for 10 years, I'm going to be fighting in Troy.
Helen caused some real issues. But going back to the mealtime, every department is in charge of leaning in with their item every week. If I'm in charge of produce, my job is to make sure I go past that cooler and that cooler has whatever product I'm responsible for being there. Because let's face it, if you have a mealtime solution cooler and everything's there but one item. I mean, that's not helping you out.
No. And it's funny, like some of the departments are like, this is crazy. You're going to put my cooler at right in the heart of the meat and produce. That way, it's a short distance. They have to walk by it 10 times every time they do it, like they go out to the floor. So it's more convenient. I think the problem is location in Leechburg needs to be back towards the meat department more, right in that middle section where we have that freezer now,
I
weird
agree.
stuff, right by the deli. That way, every department has to walk by it multiple times. Again, people get busy. They have things going on. They might not see it.
That's a great idea. Hopefully I remember that.
Write it down.
Hopefully one of us does. First guy that remembers it at the store, we just got to make it happen. Just unplug it. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Anyways, so where did it come from? Had to have been Doug, some CEO in the 80s on a golf course, right?
No. Uncle Jack. This is back in the specialty water and winter sports world. When you attack the mountain, you lean into your skis. And so originally it was actually a sports term.
So it actually meant throwing your body into something dangerous, away from something dangerous, right?
Right. And then back in 1941, a Princeton Alumni magazine had a blurb about some guy named Kent Cooper was leaning into the Columbia business, basically meaning to give it his all.
Kent Cooper, depending on how you look at it, overachiever, try hard. One of the two or maybe both. But Kent Cooper, man, I mean, it's always cool to like delve through those buzzwords and figure out, like, it's cool when they can actually match it up to somebody.
And then in 2013, a Sheryl Sandberg book mentioned it as like the core of empowerment of women in business. The book,
and then everybody in the world took it over.
Right. The CEO of the Facebook wrote the book Lean In, Women Work and Will to Lead. She used it as a call to action for women to assert themselves in their careers and hold on and not hold themselves back. It's a massive cultural movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. And now you hear it everywhere. And, everybody's got to lean into this TPS report, little Office Space movie reference. But, now it's like everything else. It's so overly used. Everybody's like just looking for opportunities. Okay, now we're all going to need to lean in. We're all going to need to be leaning in on this new objective, on this new, can we use another one? Can we use another corporate word at the same time, twice in the same sentence?
Yeah, rocket.
Rocket?
Oh, no, I thought you were going to rock the word.
Like, wait, what?
Rocket!
Rocket! I actually think that's a great one. We got to figure, we should be the ones to create rocket, the corporate buzzword.
The rocket is like the Schmeckla of Katanning just flying through the aisle, loading the shelf. You got rocket through that aisle.
Rocket.
I like rocket, but no, it's a modern equivalent of, most bosses use it now as, listen, guys, just need to get this done. I don't want to explain myself to you. I don't have time to explain myself to you. You just got to get this project done. In our case, though, we just want people to lean in because at the end of the day, it's beneficial when you lean into the mission and everybody carries the torch. All the boats start rowing in the same direction. We achieve goals, and that's what we need to do with this mealtime program.
The rowing thing is, I was going to use the same reference, man. Yeah, if everybody's just rowing in the same direction, it's amazing. You don't have to row that hard. But if you get one or two rogue rowers,
I've been
treading water.
Back to Odessa, I've really been a good captain. I'm like this. Oh, that guy can't row as fast. Off the boat.
I'd have had enough guys so it was just ramming speed the whole way. As the guy passed out, you pull him off, you put him back in. My drummer would be like, boom, boom, boom. I mean, it'd be like it'd be like going over the water.
Well, speaking in the right direction, that leads us into this week's interview and phenomenal guest, Jeff Verszyla, guys. Super excited to have him up next.
Remember the thrill of your first childhood game, maybe tic-tac-toe? Genuine Pennsylvania Skill Games captures that excitement, offering easy-to-play, win-every-time experiences at your favorite local spots. Imagine a game where a little skill consistently turns credits into cash prizes. A game you can enjoy with others and even help them win. No need to just imagine. Genuine Pennsylvania Skill Games, championed by the PA Skill Alliance, are real. Go to paskillalliance.org for more information.
Hi, everybody. Super excited today. We have the face of Western Pennsylvania meteorology, Jeff Verszyla, here today, guys. Super excited.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being on, Jeff. I'll tell you what, I've been following you since I lived in Evansburg. My wife and I, when we first got married, in the early 2Ks. That was the first time I watched you, and we've been watching you ever since. And you and I actually talked a little bit a few years ago when we were starting our social media, and you were doing whiteboard for the first time. And you gave me some nice insights. You probably don't remember. You probably had so many things happen since. But it's great to have you on the cast today. Thanks for giving us your time.
Well, and I appreciate you guys like referring to when the first time we met was back in the early 2000s. That doesn't make me feel young in any way, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Well, you share similar tendencies to me, if you know what I mean.
I feel you. I feel you. When I don't have to report for work on a regular basis, it gives me the opportunity to explore my facial hair features, which my wife is not a big fan of. I will say that right out of the gate. But, people say, why are you growing a mustache, Jeff? I say, why the hell not?
Exactly.
And for the rest of us guys out here, we're just jealous. I mean, it's like 6 weeks, so
You'll get there. You'll get there.
I'm working on it. 40 this year, so we'll see it happens. So, Jeff, you grew up around here, right here in Western Pennsylvania. Where was your stomping grounds as a kid, and where you used to hang out on the weekends?
I grew up in it was in the Quaker Valley School District, but the place I grew up was called Leet Township. It's one of the smaller communities within the Quaker Valley School District. It's right on the border of Allegheny and Beaver County. So my mother originally was from the Ambridge area, so we were close to Ambridge, but also close to other things as well. So I grew up in that school district, even though I didn't attend school at Quaker Valley. My mother was a big believer in Catholic education, so I attended Quigley Catholic High School, which was in Baden, Beaver County, and unfortunately Quigley had to close up shop a few years ago. I want to say back around 19 or 20. So my high school no longer exists, but the education that I got there, still got it right here.
Wow, I hear that, man. I hear that. We've Doug and I have both been in our share of schools and businesses that we were in, now we're not in. I mean, you learn to pivot in this world. But speaking of pivot, a lot of people don't know this, and I learned this preparing for the interview. But you actually got your start in Texas. You spent some time in Texas, right?
I did. Well, I mean, I've been in broadcasting, radio and television for 34 years. So originally out of college, while I was doing other things, including bartending and working in the service industry and whatnot, I was also working in radio originally in Pittsburgh. I did some stuff for, at the time, it was called 97 Rock. It was up on Mount Washington. Excuse me. I also did some stuff for, at the time, called Variety 96, which was 96.1, which they ran that out of the WTE building out on Ardmore Boulevard. And I was the morning show producer there for about a year and a half. And then I felt the need that I had to expand my horizons. So I was looking for opportunities to be the guy, the DJ, rather than the producer. And my first opportunity that I got that seemed like it would be a good fit for me was in a place called Edinburgh, Texas, which is, if you look at a map, and I encourage you to do so, I like looking at maps. I encourage you to do so. Where I lived is in the very southern tip of Texas. So if you think of Texas from north to south, the very southern tip that kind of kicks out in the Gulf of Mexico, the market there was Weslaco, Brownsville, Harlingen. And I moved from Pittsburgh to what's called the Rio Grande Valley, deep South Texas, to take a radio job originally as the morning DJ on a radio station called KVLY. Now, when I got there, ahead of time, they said, Verszyla ain't going to work on radio. It's too complicated. Of course, it looks like the last name of an eye chart. So there's not much we can do with that in radio. And down there, a sort of a Slovak, Czechoslovakian, Ukrainian name like Verszyla doesn't carry as much cachet as it does in Pittsburgh. So I became Jeff Martin down there because it was, if you use, back in those days, you used sort of a pseudonym, an on-air name, and I became Martin in the morning on KVLY, adult contemporary station. Now, do you want me to tell the whole story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. because you're, well, how the hell did you get in TV? That is a little bit more of a twisted road. Um, Once I moved there to become Martin in the Morning, it was January of 94. And by May of 94, I got let go. Would be the first of several times I've been let go in my career. Um, but I got let go. So I moved 2,200 miles, uprooted my life, and I was out of work. So at that time, I needed to figure things out. Anyone that knows anything about me knows that I wasn't coming home with my tail between my legs. I was going to figure it out. So I got a job as a part-time DJ at a country music station called K-Frog. So I was not a big fan of country music at the time, but I became a big fan of country music at the time. Um, and I started working at K-Frog, which happened to share a parking lot with the ABC station down there, which was KRGV, Rio Grande Valley. So I got to know a lot of the photographers and whatnot coming and going through the parking lot. And over the course of that summer, in June primarily, they said to me, Jeff, we have a situation here at the station. You're a very good broadcaster. Thank them for that. But we have a situation where the morning weather guy is getting married to the weekend weather girl. So there was a weather union and they were going on their honeymoon. So they didn't have anybody to do the weather for the morning for a Monday through Friday time frame. They were stuck. I had never done TV. I'd never done weather. Coming through college, most of my experience was either in radio or behind the scenes production. I was a big production guy. I like to create, edit, and do things like that. But I'd spent very little time on camera. I was hurting for money, so I went in and I auditioned. And I just kind of felt comfortable in front of a camera. It was like a radio microphone to me. And they were really stuck. So they hired me to freelance those 5 days, Monday through Friday. So I practiced a little bit in front of the chroma key wall, so I wasn't really, really, really bad. And then the rest of it was just conversation like I'm having with you right now. And I had to sort of immerse myself into some of the weather terminology to kind of have a good grasp. I didn't want to sound like an idiot. But anyway, I filled in for that week. 1 week, 5 days. Got to the end of the week, everything went well, I thought. And the station seemed to be happy with what I did for them. But after that week, I went back to doing my part-time, my part-time job at the country music station. TV station called me and they said, "Hey, we liked what you did. Do you mind if we call you for other freelance opportunities? Go to the 4th of July fiesta and do a live shot for us." Things like, great, absolutely. It was more money. I was just looking to make money. So we went into July and we got toward the end of July and my money was running very scarce. I wasn't making enough to support myself. Not that I was living a lavish life. Angel hair pasta every night or macaroni and cheese was my diet. But I got to that point where that part of the country was very much education there means more than it does maybe say up here. Like graduating from high school in most places is sort of an afterthought. Down there, it is a milestone. Not a lot of folks either get to their high school education or even beyond that. So I thought, well, the school district, I have a college education. That's probably going to mean something here. So I went to the school district in McAllen and I applied for a job to be a teacher. And the job that was available was a middle school English teacher, also a football coach. I applied, and not only did I just applied with the district, and the district had several schools, several middle schools. Well, there were 2 positions that were available at 2 different schools, and they both wanted to hire me. So I went from not having any job to 2 schools in the same district wanting to hire me as an English teacher and a football coach. I was overwhelmed at the time. I'm like, wow, this is great. So they called me on a Thursday. It was in early August. They called me on a Thursday and said, "Hey, we got a situation. We have these 2 schools that are fighting for your services." I was like, okay. They were like, "We have to take it before the school board tonight at the meeting to hash out which of these schools would have the opportunity to hire you first. I'm like, okay, fine. They'll say, we'll call you tomorrow. So they they called me tomorrow, the next day, that Friday, and first thing in the morning, and they said, this school, I think it was McAllen Memorial, offered you the job first. So that's the one you would have to accept. Well, that was not the one I preferred. So at that time, I was like, okay, can I call you back on Monday with a for sure answer? I just wanted the weekend to think about it. No sooner did I get off the phone with them than the news director at KRGV gave me a call. And he said, Jeff, can you come by the station? I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I went into the station thinking he was going to talk to me about other freelance opportunities that I had moving forward, or they had for me moving forward. So I went into the station, I sat down with the news director, and he said, we really liked some of the stuff you did when you filled in doing weather, when you did some of the freelance stuff. We don't have a position open right now, but we would like to create one for you. And I said, well, please explain. And he said, we don't have week to week, you may be doing something different any week. Any week you could be filling in doing sports, covering high school football, filling in on weather, filling in on news, general assignment reporting. He goes, we don't have a quote unquote role that we can promise you every week, but I can tell you every week we want you on air, or every day we want you on air. So I looked at that opportunity and I told him, I said, listen, I got offered a job at the school district as a football coach and an English teacher. I said, I need the weekend to think about it. So thought about it over the weekend, and here I am today. So I was literally probably one afternoon away from my whole life's journey going in a whole different direction. Lord knows where I'd be right now as an English teacher and a football coach somewhere in Texas, rather than sitting here talking to you where I am now.
Wow, that's crazy. I'd say there's probably less than 3% of Western Pennsylvania that knows about that. So thanks for sharing. I got to ask you this question, though. I mean, Texas football, Western PA, we're prideful of our football for sure. But, like, Texas is, like, big time, right? So, like, that was probably a big opportunity than it sounds like to us.
It was an opportunity for me to make money. But to your point, yes, football in Texas is huge. That's all you did on Friday night. Whether or not you had a kid that went to the school, whether or not you went to that school, nobody did anything else on Friday night except go to the high school football game in their community. The stadiums there, even for the small schools, rival the biggest stadiums here for some of the larger schools. So that's what you could go out to dinner at 7 o'clock on a Friday and walk in and sit down and be kind of the only person in the restaurant, because that's just what people did. Myself, I typically didn't go to football games on Friday night in Texas because I didn't have any attachment. I went to the movies. No one was at the movies.
That's a good time to go. Now, Jeff, while you're down there, did you embrace the Western culture, like learn how to ride horses, buy some cowboy boots? Did you like totally get in, or like were you kind of like, I'm still from Pittsburgh, so I'm gonna wear a flannel and call it a day?
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you this. I look back now in hindsight, years later, because I left there in '96, so it's been 30 years. But for the 2.5 years that I was there, I kind of went through a cultural shock. And I'll be honest with you about that, because I went from being this guy in the north to the very southern tip of Texas, which basically, yes, I was in Texas, but it was very heavily influenced by the Hispanic culture. So down there, sort of the population was probably about 80% Hispanic and 20% everything else. So you followed the Hispanic culture while you were there. So yes, by default, I became very immersed in the sort of Hispanic Tejano culture while I was there, because that's who I was broadcasting to, and certainly that's where I needed to fit in.
So then, do you speak fluent Spanish
Un
then?
poquito español, un poquito. And I know a lot of the bad words, which I'll spare you of, because I taught all my friends, and I still have friends that live there. When I was down there, I said, teach me the bad words, so I know when somebody's talking shit on me. So I did.
That makes sense.
So I learned the bad words, and then very minimal Spanish. And they called it Spanglish down there, because sentences would be consistent of maybe 3 English words and 6 Spanish words. So you could follow along if you you got the English, and then if you knew about 2 or 3 Spanish words, you could follow along to a conversation.
I was hoping for a Espanol Jeff on the weather, like this. Picante, picante, big storm coming.
Caliente today. Al fresco.
I like it. I like the fact that you're able to like literally reinvent yourself with a whole new name and everything. What an interesting, like, awesome opportunity for a guy from Western PA to be able to have that time.
Let me
like
tell
that.
you a quick story about down there, and this sort of encapsulates everything. I would go to the bank because back then there was no direct deposit, so I'd have to go to the bank to deposit my check. So they got to know me at the bank, and they'd see me coming in. Hey, Jeff Martin, how you doing? And then I'd hand them my check, and my check actually said Verszyla. And they would look at it, and they would look at me, and they'd look at it. Because on TV, I was Jeff Martin, too, because that's how I became known down there. So they were very confused in the bank until I had to explain it to them that wasn't my real name. That was my quote-unquote stage name. And then there was one other instance when I went to a doctor down there. And in the doctor's office, when you go in, you sit down, and they call your name. Joe Smith, your doctor will see you now. And this is where I came up with sort of, for my last name, I call myself Jeff Pause, because people down there would either say my name Jeff and then they would pause because they wouldn't even try. They would say Jeff, and they're waiting. And then one time when I was a doctor, they said Jeff. They didn't even try. They said Jeff Venezuela.
Oh, man, that's a total butcher job there. I mean, that's not
giving up.
That's not even trying.
So I said, but I mean, they saw a V and an A, and they said Venezuela, and I looked around. I said, yeah, I think that's me.
Yeah, you take it for granted. I mean, Western PA, Verszyla, I mean, you've built that name. We know that name. Plus, I mean, like, to your point, with the ethnicities that are around, I mean, it's common. That kind of name's common around here. Same with Sprankle. I mean, we've seen it all, heard it all with Sprankle. Sprinkle, Sprankle. I mean, it's like, and the whole time I'm thinking, dude, just look at it. Sprankle, Sprankle.
Give it a shot. Yeah, absolutely.
People don't even try sometimes. It's just like, I mean, you get all kinds of stuff.
It's kind of a reverse story about that. When I did move back here, and I wasn't known on TV at the time. I just started off here. So, I mean, I knew the people that I grew up around, my family and friends. But at one point, somebody asked me, they said, well, Verszyla, what's your real name? And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, that's your TV name, Verszyla. And I said, do you honestly think if I was coming up with a TV name that I would take that group of letters in that order and say, hey, this works?
This is for me.
Yeah, that wouldn't be like, you would never get a PR person to be like, you know what? You got the face, this is the name we've decided on after deep study.
No, yeah. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Yeah, it's true. Well, let's get into the weather, because Doug and I on the cast, we've covered it in depth. Weather is such a huge part of the grocery business.
You don't say.
And well, it's funny. I'm glad you reacted that way, because that's what everybody would say. It's like the obvious stuff comes up, but it's the stuff below the surface, behind the swinging doors, that Doug and I worry about with weather. We are addicted to the weather, because if the wind blows more than 15 or 20 mile an hour, if the rain's too hard, if there's lightning in the area, all that means for us is we can't drink wine, Jeff, because we may get a call that we have to come into the store because the power's out. And then the sweat of having, hundreds of thousands of dollars in perishable inventory is on the line. You can't afford perishable insurance. It's like $40 grand a year. So you're literally just rolling the dice. The timer's going off. It's too much money to get a generator for a store. It's crazy. So you kind of are just stuck in this sweat period. Doug and I literally have went up and down roads finding where the problem is. We've learned how to identify where the poles are that are broken. And we literally go, and I'm just going to say this. We call 911 and we say, we have an emergency. There's a down wire. It's affecting the road. And then when you do that, and then we've learned some other little ways to call certain people and certain secret
You got
numbers.
Duque Light on speed dial, right?
We got it all. We figured it out. But here's the thing. I mean, we're like the guy on The Great Outdoors that got struck in the head 75 times with lightning. I mean, when it starts raining, Doug and I are like shaking. You know, we're the guy at the corner of the bar shaking, you know. So bringing that up, the last few years out of our 30 years in business seem to be craziest of all the years. It seems to just be getting crazy. The tenacity of the weather keeps getting crazy, real hot, real cold, real windy, tornado-like weather. You know, what are you seeing on your end? Are you seeing the same thing? Has there been a shift, and why in your
Well, before
opinion?
I get to that, since I'm here with two grocery guys, I got to ask, what percentage increase in revenue do you typically get when it snows 2 or more inches, especially in terms of selling more milk, more bread, more toilet paper?
At least 20%. At least 20% uptick. And then the best is when you guys get on there, you're like this, death's coming. Snowmageddon is on its way. And then we get 1 inch and we're like, yes, go Jeff.
I would love to have somebody explain to me the concept behind all this French toast being eaten on a day when you might be hunkered down for a day, but you're not hunkered down until the zombie apocalypse. It's only a day. So you can't wait until Monday with enough toilet paper. Maybe if you eat that much French toast, you need that much toilet paper. I don't know.
Jeff, I'm glad you asked that. So back during COVID, when like they came out like COVID's bad and like nobody can go out anywhere, literally the shelves, first thing to go out was toilet paper. Gone. And like people were hoarding it. And the best part of the guys came back like a year later. Hey, I have 15 packages of Sprinkles toilet paper. Can I return that now? No.
They tried to return toilet paper.
Oh, yeah. Because they literally had so much in their basement. Their wives finally said, it's enough, Leroy. Get back to the store.
People
and try
are
to
losing
return
their
it.
minds.
We're like, well, you can't take it back, man. You made a shortage because of your craziness.
Yeah,
of the toilet
and
paper.
I understand wanting to have a clean rear end. I do get it, but there's probably like a threshold and a limit at which enough is enough. I don't know.
Yeah, no. So before we answer on this question, I do want to go back. How did you get into obviously you had your first experience with the weather at the radio or at the station. How did you get like from that to like, you know what, guys, this is my calling. I'm going to do the weather.
I'll get to that, and then Ryan, I got to get to answer your question as well about the weather. But we'll kind of take that journey forward once I started when I was in Texas. So when I got hired, eventually I think they knew that the weekend weather girl and the morning weather guy, now that they were a thing, they were going to be leaving at some point. And they were right. It was probably only a matter of months. So I was slotted immediately into doing morning weather down there, which is what I did for most of the rest of the time I was there. I did add in anchor duties at the noon news. So I was anchoring the news, and then I was doing the weather all within the same broadcast. So, you know, at the end, if you can broadcast, you can broadcast, whether it's weather or news or whatever the case may be. One is reading a teleprompter. The other one is just talking ad lib. So you reach a point, I think most broadcasters or people in their career journeys, that they're like, okay, I think I've got everything I need out of this particular job in this particular location. Let's start looking elsewhere, which is what I started doing. And traditionally, at the time when I was in that TV market, it was market 102. So it's a small TV market. There are only 219 TV markets in the country. So once you get past 100, those are typically considered fairly small TV markets. So the next most logical move is to move to a mid-market, somewhere in the 40s or 50s, in that range. So that's where I started looking. And I applied for jobs in Little Rock, Arkansas, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and also in Monterey, California. I visited all 3 locations. I was offered the job in Little Rock, didn't feel right. I was offered the job in Wilkes-Barre, didn't feel right, even though it was much closer to home, only 5 hours away. When I turned down that job, my mother was livid. She's like, what the hell are you doing? You know, you could be closer to home. The way things eventually worked out is I'm sending out all these resumes and reels and whatnot. I sent one. I had a connection to KDKA. I had known or knew the general manager at the time from having done an internship when I was in college at Fox 53. He was the general manager there at the time. So I had a connection there. So at the time, he had switched over to KDK to be the GM. I reached out to him, And I said, you know, would it be possible if I sent my resume reel to your news director to have her look it over and just tell me where I need to improve? What do I need to become better at in order to get hired? So I sent it to her. She looked at it, and this was right around the time when KDK was launching the Hometown Advantage, if you remember that sort of promotional thing. And I was a hometown guy. So she looked at my tape and she said, I'd like to talk to you. And this was right before Christmas. She goes, are you going to be in town for Christmas? And I said, actually, I am. I'm coming home to see my family for Christmas. So when I came into town for Christmas, I met with the news director, KDKA. We sat down, we looked at my tape. She reviewed it. She said, you know, I see a lot of really good things here you're doing. There's things that you need to improve on, but overall, I think it's very good for as long as you've been in broadcasting. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then she said out of the next breath, we're launching a new promotional campaign called the Hometown Advantage. She said, where we highlight hometown talent, people that were born here, people that were raised here, people who have lived here most of their lives. And she said, obviously you fit that very well. And she goes, we're looking to hire you. And I'm like, this caught me completely off guard because I'm in market 102. You just don't jump to market 22, or I think Pittsburgh might have been 18 at the time. That just doesn't happen. So I was like blown away. She goes, we'll bring you back for a formal interview in a couple of weeks. So I did go back for another interview they took me around and I formally interviewed with everybody. And then there was this lull in activity. And the reason there was a lull is the Steelers were in the Super Bowl that year against the Cowboys. So the station was overwhelmed with having Super Bowl coverage. Then there was a flood, the flood of 96 in January. So they were very busy with the news cycle. So hiring me was not at the top of their priority list of let's get that done. So I waited and waited, and I didn't hear anything back. And it was probably around mid to late February. And I reached back out and I said, listen, I said, you know, if you've chosen to go in another direction, that's fine. I get it. I said, but I also have this offer in Monterey, California, which I was going to take. If you've ever been to Monterey, California, you know how nice it is there. And I was very much on board with moving to Monterey, California. It's kind of the opposite of Pittsburgh. 203 days a year of clouds here, probably 360 days of sunshine there. Anyway, I digress. So she said, no. She said, we've been busy doing with these other things, the news cycle. She goes, we're bringing you here. We want to bring you here full time. And I said, okay. So then the offer came in. And I moved back in April of 96 and started on air at KDK as they launched the Hometown Advantage. So it was kind of a little bit of a twist and turn, as well as most lives are. The path is never a straight line, but that's how I found my way to Pittsburgh. And when I came here, I did weather on the weekends and did other things as well. And in that whole process, as weather became my career. It's nothing I studied in college, but at that point, it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this for my life, I need to become really immersed in what it's all about. So I did go back to school, and I got my degree in meteorology from Mississippi State University. At the time, you could do that remotely. That was kind of the start of remote learning. And I tell this to my kids. My kids are 20 and 18 now. I said, you can do remote learning on a computer now, or distance learning, however it's termed. You can go to college on your computer. Back then, I had to order textbooks from the bookstore. They mailed them to me, and all the lectures came on VHS tape in another envelope. And I would pop in the VHS tape in the VCR, and I'd watch my lecture, and I'd do my work, and I was able to enter the work into a computer, but that was it. It was just a matter of doing the work, taking the tests, or submitting my work in the computer, but there was no ability to do what we're doing now. Back then, it was all VHS tape, and then I had to mail back my VHS tapes at the end of the semester. So that's how school was done, at least distance-wise, back then. And got my degree in meteorology, and the rest, as they say, is history. I was at KDK long enough where I just sort of climbed the ladder probably rather rapidly. From the time I started 96 to the time I became the main weather guy there was about 4 years. And I'm very grateful. Things happened for me much quicker than I ever anticipated they would over the course of a few years, because I went from being almost a high school football coach to being chief meteorologist at the station I grew up watching in the course of probably about 5 years.
Now, a question about, we talk about the VH. It's fun to talk about the VHSs and all the transition. When I went to college for filmmaking, which ended up not being great. I'm now a grocer.
There's your journey. There's your path.
It worked out pretty good for this.
Yeah.
Worked out pretty good for this, though.
Yeah, no. I took the Boston approach, where I basically did the job first and then paid for the hobby. So that's why we're here today. But the thinking about the technology and the knowledge of how to read the weather, has that changed over that period of time? I mean, has there been like aha moments, like, oh, this is really this or that, or has it pretty much been the same since you took those classes to like today?
And taking those classes, having kids in college right now, I understand that they take a lot of courses that they're never going to need in their majors. And in meteorology, I took courses that were part of the requirement that I really don't use at all in my day-to-day operations. I had to take a course in thermodynamic meteorology. And in what I do on a daily basis, I still do my own forecasts, but I'm not really digging deep into thermodynamics on a daily basis. But in the vein of what you asked, technology has come a long way in the course of the last 30 years. And people are surprised when they, because I do weather now with a whiteboard with markers on my back porch. And they're like, well, how are you able to do that? Don't you need to be at the TV station to do that? And I said this before, no, I could do a perfectly great, accurate forecast from my phone, sitting on my beach blanket, looking at the ocean. It's just a matter of knowing where to go to get the information that I need to look at in order to make a judgment about the forecast. So technology has come a long way where we have access to all this information very easily, very readily. Now, you do need the education to understand it and to interpret it properly for any given location. If I showed somebody how to try and do a forecast for Pittsburgh, just very generally, yes, you might be able to say it might rain that day or it might not. That's what people think we do anyway. But each situation, the longer you are somewhere, each situation, you see patterns that repeat themselves. And each situation tends to act a little differently, especially here. That's where the local expertise comes into play, knowing how systems move if they're coming from a certain location, maybe from Canada or from the Gulf of Mexico, or just straight across the country, and how that impacts us. What's the weather typically in those sort of weather patterns? Taking into account the Great Lakes are just to our north. You have the Appalachians just down to our south and east. So there's a lot of sort of local knowledge that is needed to be completely accurate in any situation, because weather on any given day is quite different from, say, Newcastle to Morgantown, which is sort of the area that it could be 10 degrees difference, if not more, or in winter, one location might get a half an inch, the other location might get 6.5 inches. So there are nuances that you need to understand about any place, not exclusive to Western PA. If you worked in Miami, I'm sure there's the same sort of setup, knowing the environment there, knowing the topography there, knowing the way the systems come in there and how it affects that area.
Well, you hit around the spot, the nuances. The news and the ounces seem to be getting ooer and ounces as we go. And we'd asked the question earlier, and what, in your perspective, what has changed? What's changing, making these fluctuations happen?
You want me to be honest with you?
Very, yes.
Okay. There is, and because of the way things have evolved in recent years, especially, everyone has access to information, and everyone tends to think they're an expert at everything, and everyone pays attention to everything. So there's been a lot of changes in the culture, probably over the last 15 to 20 years, and then how people think they understand certain things. So I say that not to be disrespectful to people, but everyone thinks they know when it comes to the weather because they have a weather app or because they check XYZ. And I've always said, when people say to me, if I forecast 1 to 2 inches of snow and say it snows half an inch, And then somebody will come to me and say, well, they said, my aunt, who's they? Who's they? They'll say, well, I said in my weather app, stop right there. Because I'm only responsible for what comes out of this mouth. I'm not responsible for what comes out of anyone else's mouth, and I'm not responsible for what your weather app says and whatever analog it's on or whatever, I'm just responsible for this. That's it. So I'm not they, I'm me.
So that point, I mean, obviously, we're small grocers. We get flack for if the price of milk is 5 cents off what it should be. I mean, have you ever got like some crazy person, like emailing, showing up at the station over weather?
Not showing up at the station, but I've over the years, back when people used to write letters, I'd get hate mail. Then people evolved into email, and they would send some hateful things. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes people will even approach you face to face, which does take a lot of guts. I'll give you that, because most of the time people get tough behind a keyboard or whatnot, but face to face, they're going to back off a little bit. But sometimes people will come up to me. They think they're being cute when they say, if I had a nickel for every time somebody came up to me and said, I wish I had your job where I could be wrong all the time and still get paid, I would be living on the beach somewhere in Hawaii right now for every nickel that but at the end of the day, you can't be in this business for as long as I've been in this business and not develop a very thick skin, and be able to take criticism, as well as compliments. I think both come hand in hand, but I don't take any of it personally. I sort of shrug a lot of it off, and I thank them, because if they come up to me and they're complaining about the weather, then I know they're watching, which is, at the end of the day, ultimately what the goal is to get people to view your product and what you're putting out there. So if they feel comfortable to come up and criticize me in person, great. Let me have it. We'll move on. You're still a nice person. Maybe you're having a bad day, but at the end of the day, they're still watching.
That's a great point.
It's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Let's say any kind of advertisement is good advertisement. So, I mean, to the same point, I mean, it's working. To finish up with Ryan's question, I mean, do you think it's like overall, like, I mean, I know the big global warming that everybody talks about, but do you think it's that? Do you think it's oceans rising? Do you think, I mean, what do you think is the core of why the uptick in the amount of storms and the power of the storms? I think this year alone, we had the record tornadoes in our area, supposedly. Again, that's on the apps, but this year alone, just and Ron and I experienced it. In the last 2 years, we've had major power outages at our Leechburg store that we had to battle through. I mean, and to Ryan's point, I know that if you drive down the road and you see a blinking red light, that means that line has power, but then the one beside it doesn't if it doesn't have a blinking red light on it.
Yeah, and are we getting less tolerant for these changes, or are they really just getting more violent?
Well, let me give you something to think about. Let me play devil's advocate here for a minute, because I'm a common sense guy, and I have not studied the climate to the degree that some other, no pun intended, to the degree that some other people have over the course of their career. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of investigating, because it's something that I'm interested in. But one thing that I do strongly believe in, and it's a very common sense explanation for some of what you were referring to, a couple of things. First off, recording the weather has become much more common now than, say, it was 50 years ago or 70 years ago. So when we see something like, there are 26 named storms in a hurricane season, Atlantic hurricane season, and people say that's the most ever. Well, I do take umbrage with saying most ever, because prior to 1950, there was no satellite technology. So if there had been, say, a hurricane way out in the middle of the Atlantic that never touched land, nobody knew about it. So it's hard to say those things never have happened before when your technology only goes back a certain period of time of which you can actually record that, what has happened. So prior to 1950, who's to say we didn't have a hurricane season that had 30 storms? 28 of them maybe we never saw because we didn't have the technology to see what was going on in the ocean in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Back then, they just had to wait for it to come ashore and then say, oh, gosh, there's a hurricane here. They didn't have the advanced warning. So that's one part of it. The technology has come a lot greater. Secondarily, everyone's got a cell phone in their pocket. So everything that is seen out a window, or whether it be a house window, car window, walking, is recorded now. So a tornado, say, that hits an open field in Indiana County. Now it's documented. Somebody's got it on their phone. Again, taking you back 50 years. Did anyone know that that tornado ever touched down in the middle of the field in Indiana County? No, probably not. Maybe the farmer saw it there and he said to his neighbor, "Did you see that?" And that's where it stopped. It wasn't reported as such. So technology has maybe increased some of the numbers over the course of time, because we are more able to document all this, whereas before maybe we weren't. Well, we certainly weren't. And then the final thing I'll say to you said about the impacts. Again, this is just evolution. A lot of things in Western Pennsylvania, for that matter, any city, have been developed. Whereas back in the 70s, a lot of the places where there are housing developments now, or strip malls, or anything like that, they weren't there. So the impacts from a heavy rainfall, we'll say, back in the 70s, were probably not as impactful as they are now, because when you take all that land, grass, dirt away that absorbs moisture, you take that away, you layer it with concrete, which doesn't, and everything runs off, you're going to have different issues. The same rainfall maybe fell in 1975 on an open field. You take that rainfall 30 years later falling on a strip mall with concrete, and that's going to act differently. The runoff is going to be quite different. So as a result, the impacts are going to be quite different. So there's a lot of things that people don't often think about and consider when it comes to some of these weather situations. That's not to say that, to your point, things may be acting a little differently now than they were in previous years. But at the end of the day, also, I'm a firm believer that everything happens in cycles. Whether or not we're part of the equation or not, I can't say. But I do know if you go back through history, there were the Dust Bowl in the 1930s. It was the hottest, driest period that the United States has ever seen. And then you had some of the really cold winters in the 70s that I grew up with. So everything happens in cycles. And I think the climate responds to changes over periods of time. So whether or not we have an impact on any of that, I don't know. We may not. I don't know. I can't say for sure, again, because I haven't studied it in depth enough. But what I do know is the climate is very cyclical.
So Ryan, to that point, me and you, it's all in our head.
Yeah.
We just got to stop looking at our phone.
Yeah.
Check in with Jeff once, twice a week, watch whiteboard, and be done with it.
Yeah, we just gotta ride it out, man.
Well, that makes a good point. I mean, obviously everybody is super involved now and super, reporting. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody has, opinion. And, with social media, which obviously we lean a lot into, word gets out really, really fast. And, to the same point, whenever you're digesting that media, it could be a week later, it already happened, but in your mind, it's present, it's now. And so I think all that combination makes sense. I mean, Ryan jokes. I mean, every morning I wake up, I look at the Win app, I look at all these apps like for the next 3, 4, 5 days to make sure I can have a glass of wine with the family and enjoy the evening without having to worry about Leechburg losing power.
Well, and there's also, in the one final point, I do know this for sure because I've dealt with it with my own family. There's a definite recency bias. Whenever it gets cold, or it could be any type of weather, we'll just use cold as sort of the case study here. Whenever it gets to like 0 degrees in the winter, I'll have, people in my family that say, "Oh, I can't ever remember it being this cold in early February." And I'm like, yeah, because you woke up today and it was that cold. But if I went back and looked through history, I could probably find you a similar situation where the temperature was probably pretty equal to what it is outside today in the last 5 years. But there's a recency bias. If it's happening now, if it just happened this week, or it's happening tomorrow, that's what we tend to gravitate to. And maybe we just don't recall what may have happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, unless it was the blizzard of '93.
Interesting. Here's the next question, Jeff. So we're gonna pivot a little bit to the latest episode of Jeff Verszyla. Obviously we're all watching social media. We all see what's happening. And, June 25th, you posted that, unbeknownst to you, that noon was the last performance, at least for that chapter of your career. And so the first part of the question is, I don't know how much you want to share or not share, but like what? Like what? And then the second part of the question is, so then you pivot back to whiteboard, which I was a follower. Doug was a follower. There was a lot of followers. My wife was a huge follower. And so you pivot back to that. And now understanding your history, you have all the tools to make that happen. And so, like, first question, obviously, you heard the first question. Second question is there a little bit of excitement about the new chapter?
Uh, yes, there is. I'm somebody who tries not to dwell on what has happened in the past or things that are out of my control. Rather, I embrace where I am right now and try and, to quote Rocky Balboa, keep moving forward.
Yes.
Take the hits and keep moving forward, right?
Look at my profile page on my Facebook. That's my profile page. That's my line. Yes.
You take the hits and you keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. So yeah,
That's the best line.
that's an epic line. It was a terrible movie, but we got that line out of the movie, right?
Yes,
I have it. I have it
yes.
framed. I think somewhere down in my basement for sure. Anybody who's a fan of Rocky,
Beautiful.
you know it. But to your point, back on June the 25th, unfortunately, that's how the business acts sometimes. So going in that could happen to you. Unfortunately, it happened to me twice. So it is what it is. But that day that it happened, I can't change that outcome. So you shake the hands, you stay professional, you say thank you for allowing me to be here for 6 years, and you close that chapter and you move on to the next. And the pivot point at this, based off of the feedback that I got from so many people that were so supportive, was we want the whiteboard weather back. Because to your point, Ryan, that your wife and maybe yourself and Doug, you as well, people seem to enjoy sort of a laid back, not high pressure. I'm not here to. I call it forecasting, not fear casting. That's never been my sort of personality to raise concern over things. I just present the facts and let people deal with them as each person should, because everyone ingests information differently. So that was a natural point to pivot back to, since people really spoke out and said we want it again. So just take some time to kind of get everything aligned again, to move back in that direction, and we'll see where it goes this time. I've been here before. I learned from the last time, maybe some of the things that I can do better, and hopefully I will improve upon it moving forward so we can keep moving forward.
And I mean, you got to enjoy. I mean, part of anything changing in life, Ryan and I, I'm 40 this year. Ryan's a lot older, a lot older. And one of the things he always coaches me on is like, Doug, like family time is so important, engaging with family, separating that work-life balance. We understand that obviously being a public figure, being involved with the station, it's a lot of time. Have you enjoyed that newfound time with the family again, especially at crucial ages of 18 and 20?
And the first time when I left KDKA, my kids were a little bit younger, and it came at a really good time looking back, that I was able to spend time with my boys at a time that they were going through a transitional period in their lives, so I could be here for them. So yes, I that's a gift every day, and I'll look back and I can remember a conversation vividly that I had with Larry Richard. You guys probably know Larry very well. He preceded me at KDKA as the main weather guy, and then he eventually left to go back into his roots in radio. But I can remember having a conversation with Larry in the weather department one day. And at the time, he had kids that were younger, I think high school age, or maybe slightly younger than that. And he had let me know what his plans were for the future, that he was going to leave TV and go back into radio. And I was very curious. Why? I mean, you're the guy here now. Why would you leave now when you're at the crescendo, at the peak of what you've done in TV? And he said to me, he goes, the one piece of advice I'll give you is don't ever take your family for granted. Don't ever look back and say, I wish I'd have been there for this, that, or the other. Because he pretty much said that he had regrets about the amount of time he was missing away from his family and how he wished he could do things differently. And that was part of the reason he made the decision that he did, to kind of allow himself to spend more time with his family, to be there for his kids on a more frequent basis. And at the time, I didn't understand it because I was I was like 20, or I was like 30 years old. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a wife. All I had was working and living life. So at the time, I didn't understand that. And I nodded along and said, sure, yeah, that sounds great. But then life happens. And then those things happen to you and you completely get it.
We've all been there. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, same thing as you. As a young manager, when I was working for Dad, and you know, people would say, "Oh, well, I got to be off this day, and this day for this, and this for the kids." And you're not. I wasn't a jerk. I mean, I understood. We gave them up, but at the meantime, I'm thinking, "Where's your priority?" You know, I mean, like that was the mindset. But you're right. Once you're there, it all changes. It all changes, and so we've really learned that. But I got to ask you this question, Jeff. Because we're grocers, we're meat guys.
What a day!
So,
what a day!
Jeff has an evening like this. Jeff has an evening like this, and let's say you got the family, got whatever coming over, and you're going to grill. What is your favorite steak, and how do you like it done?
My family would laugh at you because they say my wife grills more than I do, and they're probably true. It's probably true. That's on me. Mark up my man card one less because my wife hits the grill more than I do. But if I'm having a steak, it's a New York strip, and it's cooked medium. I like it. I like it a little pink, if not a little bloody on the inside. My wife, on the other hand, she doesn't like it that way. And I always say when we go out to restaurants, if we go and have a steak, she likes it cooked all the way through. And I said, you're making it shoe leather. You're paying $40 for a steak that you're telling them, will you please ruin it before you bring it back to me?
Beef jerky. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. My card would be taken too. Cause funny, people probably don't know this or realize this. Doug, he's a great cook. He's a grill guy, but I'm not. I mean, I do deal with food all day. When I come home, I don't want to deal with food anymore. So my wife is the grill master in my house.
We share a common thread there. Again, man card, we're down one level.
Yeah. I'm medium, though. Medium Delmonico is mine.
I'm very thankful every year when we have the holiday dinner at his house. I'm like, thank God.
She takes the pressure off him.
She's like, do you want a medium well, or do you like somewhere in the middle? I'm like, somewhere in the middle. Perfect.
My dad was great for that. He'd go around the room meticulously and ask everybody how they wanted it done. It was so funny. It was for years. And then he'd get sidetracked or whatever. Everybody would get well done. I mean, or medium, whatever it was. I mean, the poor guy would take all this time, and then everybody get the same thing.
When I do go to the grill, they all get done the same. I'm not there saying, okay, this side of the grill is medium, this side of the grill is medium well. No, I throw it all on, and whatever we get when I take it off, that's what you get.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate the history. And again, we learned so much about, the determination you've had through the career and taking, going to Hawaii to Texas. I mean, Texas, that's like where rocks are shot off now. That's like deep Texas. And coming back to Pittsburgh, and again, I mentioned before the show, when I first met you, I was a hostess at Outback Steakhouse at PNC Park. And it was funny because it was like my second day. And they're like, listen, Jeff comes in here at lunchtime. And when you take care of Jeff, make sure he gets the seat, make sure you put him back there, make sure you take care of him. I'm like, I'm just the hostess. I don't know what to do here. And so I took you back and I was like, man, that's Jeff. it was so
I
cool.
appreciate you taking care of me. I used to enjoy, matter of fact, I mentioned it to my family this year. We went to a Pirate game and we were sitting out in the left field bleachers and I looked behind me and I'm like, that's where Outback used to be. And I said, I used to come there for dinner all the time and just look at the empty ballpark. But what of you? What of you?
Oh, it was so cool. So cool. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. For people to find, they can go to the whiteboard weather. Real quick, so everybody has it. What are your handles and how do people find you?
I'm on Facebook, I'm at Jeff Verszyla Weather, and Whiteboard Weather will be airing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at around noon every day. So dip in, get your forecast, simply accurate, no hype. Best of the Berg 2026.
Well, we're definitely going to share. Make sure you also check out Sprangles. We're going to have it on there and our Check Out podcast. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. It was fun.
Nah, thanks a lot, Jeff. PA Skill players seek genuine PA Skill games. How can you tell the real from the imitation? The PA Skill Alliance offers a 4-step identification process to help you find genuine PA Skill games. 1. Check for logos. Does the machine display official Pennsylvania Skill Game logos? 2. Look for Powered by Pace-O-Matic. Is it Powered by Pace-O-Matic visible on the game's casing? 3. Assess business reputation. Is the game a reputable business? Genuine PA Skill games were not intended to be standalone businesses. 4. Examine game style. Is it a tic-tac-toe style game that offers the option to win every time? Help combat fraudulent skill games by exclusively playing genuine PA Skill Alliance supported games. Discover more at paskillalliance.org. Jeff Verszyla did not disappoint. Awesome having him on. Amazing interview, amazing guest. So excited for Whiteboard to be back. I mean, I'm going to have to, in my calendar I showed earlier, I'm going to have to figure out, maybe one of those like little 10-minute holes will be my whiteboard time of the day.
And I'm glad he actually talked to us about, which is really important, that we're kind of hypochondriacs when it comes to weather. We just need to stop looking at our apps.
Yeah, we just need to
wait for the phone call.
Yeah,
it happens. It happens.
Yeah. So, all right, it's time for retail stories from around the world, Doug.
All right, guys, let's dive right into it. Today, we're checking out a situation happening right now in Chicago.
Yeah, retail giant. We're talking about Oak Brook Center.
Right outside Illinois, guys. It's basically made a specific mall, and it's, out of the grand scheme of global retail, it did it differently.
Yeah, for starters, largest open-air shopping center in contiguous United States. Does 25 million visitors a year. But in the history of how it got built, what almost stopped it is wild.
All right, man, take me back. When did it open?
Opened in 1962. But the land development started way earlier. A guy named Paul Butler, who was a private plane pilot in the 20s, used to fly over a pristine area called Salt Creek. He realized it was perfectly located near Chicago and Midway Airport and started buying up land.
So there's a dude in a biplane flying over a field and said, you know what? That's the future, baby.
Man, that's...
a biplane.
I need to have somebody hit me with that. I mean, you talk about next level vision. I mean,
the guy, first off, the guy was flying private planes in the 20s.
Yeah, like crazy. Now jump to the 50s. Marshall Fields and Sears realize all the customers are moving out of the city and into the suburbs. So they buy 150 acres of farmland, build this massive shopping center. But here's where it gets crazy.
What happened?
The land they bought wasn't actually part of Village Oak Brook at the time. So Paul Butler and his team had to convince residents of a neighboring town called Utopia, ironic, which was later renamed Oak Brook Terrace, to disconnect themselves and get annexed into Oak Brook just so they could build the mall.
I think it's amazing that those guys got a town to change their name. I can't even get a tent erected in the front to sell floral stuff from our local farmer.
Yeah, I don't know, other than mob style, and hey, we're talking about South Chicago. We're talking about South Chicago in the 50s. I mean, because I was just going to say before I thought about the mob possibility, I was just going to say the only way you could get people to say, okay, to a bunch of extra traffic, a bunch of extra people, a bunch of extra congestion and noise and lights is literally a gunpoint. So I do wonder if Mr. Butler had some connections, to some of the Italian friends in the area.
He could have, but it was kind of crazy. And the crazy thing was, it wasn't the town, it wasn't the redistricting of lines. It was in 1960 when they started construction. They're digging down 20 feet to build a central heating and cooling hub. They found something crazy, and it wasn't dinosaur bones.
Wow. They had a massive, high-pressured, spring-fed water table. Oh, it's basically a giant underground river. Engineer on the project said that in 50 years of major construction, he never seen anything like it. They had to pump the water out continuously just to pour the foundation.
They should have put a water park in. I mean, it's a massive, never-ending water flow of high-pressured water.
Yeah, and despite all that, they finished it in 1 year, way ahead of original 3-year schedule. When it opened in March 1962, over 15,000 cars flooded lots on opening day. I can't believe they got it done in that amount of time period. When you think about even today with modern, everything available, getting projects done, to do that kind of a project back then with the technology and that amount of time?
Well, there wasn't all this oversight we have now. I mean, there's guys that watch guys that watch guys that watch girls that watch guys with clipboards.
That's valid. And the permits, as we've seen with just breaking up the farm between my section for the house and your section. I mean, just in a simple task like that, think about it. We've been at it, what, 5 months, 6 months?
5 months. Finally got approved, though.
We got approved.
Thank you, Winfield
Yeah.
Township.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's great. But the point being, that's just a minor, like something like that today probably would take 10 years just to get all the permits in line.
Well, that's why America back in, right after the war, 50s, the whole way through the 90s was on fire because the regulations weren't there yet to keep us down. But
Makes sense.
I still think it's incredible the fact there's like some guy. Let's face it, lake effect weather. You're right there on the Chicago. You're right there by the big lake. And you're like, let's do an open air in the middle of winter shopping mall.
That's the part that blows my mind. Yet, out of this whole thing, that's the part that blows my mind, man. And even at the time, like other people were building indoor centers, cramming as much as they could into indoor centers, getting every square inch out of every square foot. And these guys decided to do open air. And let's face it, how much can you use that in Chicago? I mean, year round. I mean, who wants to go open air door to door in -30?
Nobody. Nobody. But it's a different approach to the suburban mall. It basically sounds like they leaned into the idea that it's about experience, not so much about economy.
Yeah, and today it's managed by Brookfield Properties, has over 107 stores and venues, including things like Putt Shack, massive 3-story restoration hardware with a restaurant and winery on the roof. I mean, it's cool. It's stood the test of time.
They survived the apocalypse, and now, guys, it's a destination if you go to Chicago.
Masterclass in evolving with the retail market.
So, Ryan, tell me this week's Ryan's retail story.
Oh, this week's a great one. It's actually it's a current story.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's a current.
You can't tell that.
It's a current story, and I'm going to tell the story. It's my story. It's my retail story.
I'm going to preface this by saying allegedly.
It's not allegedly, dude. It's not the dude. Anyways, it's all admitted to.
Okay.
It's all been taken care of. But this happened. True story. So Katanning store, all of our stores really, similar to what Sheetz used to do. Lately, I don't know, but used to. They were big on restroom cleanliness, making sure the restrooms were the cleanest restrooms, making sure that people went into that restroom and the rest of the store, the rest of the location could be judged by the cleanliness. Anyways, it's been a huge point of emphasis, big time. And the girls and guys at Katanning have done a real nice job of keeping it very, very clean. And they have a lot of pride in it.
No, I'm sorry. I know where this is going. I'll wait.
So, anyways, a lot of pride in the bathroom. And we all do our very best to make sure it is immaculate for the customers and for the crew. We use it too. There's other bathrooms, but sometimes that's the most convenient. So, huge point of emphasis. And so one day, one of our vendors, I'm not going to mention the company, one of our vendors, who 2 weeks before had in a hurry, in a rush, with a pallet jack and a pallet, slammed through my swinging deli doors and busted one of my deli doors.
Your $5,000 deli doors.
$5,000 deli door. Now, I didn't call anybody. I didn't want to get this guy fired. It was addressed. We moved forward. We got it fixed by the maintenance guy, by George Suppers. Thanks for that. He got it good enough. Really, I could have been in my rights to call Pepsi. No, cut that part out.
You're in rights to call.
Really, I would have been in my rights to call the company and have them replace the door. But I didn't. I didn't. We have a great relationship with this company. And so, bygones be bygones, move forward. Well, this same delivery person decides to use the restroom one day. Now, Lisa Reisman, one of our great department heads, produce manager, she helps out with everything. She goes to use the restroom, and she sees she had been in there about 10 minutes earlier. She helped the front end by cleaning up. We clean up every few hours, make sure. She was the one that personally did it. She left, and she was around enough not to see anybody else. She saw this person go in. So she knows nobody went in the meantime. Person comes out. She goes in to use the restroom. All over the seat, all over the floor, urine. Why, you might ask? Because she went out. This person, though, didn't close the door completely and lock the door. So she went over, saw this person go in, but didn't see anybody come out. But she wasn't watching for him to come out. Came back, saw the door not properly secured, went in. He's still there, still going to the bathroom. Thankfully, nothing's seen. But in the shaking, more urine goes everywhere. So huge mess. Person just decides to storm out and leave without at least getting some tissue and making it decent. Just leaves it flowing. She then goes in. This whole thing happens. She then goes out. I mean, we take this seriously. She said, you're not going to go back in and clean up your mess. No, I'm not cleaning up my mess. We take this bathroom cleanliness very seriously. We all have to clean up after our mess. You work here. You're working for a company that works here. You should have to clean up your mess. I shouldn't have to clean up your mess. I'm not cleaning up my mess. That's bad enough. But here's where it gets worse. Then gets all irate, embarrassed, whatever, mad, goes through the store, starts talking to employees, other employees, and customers about how our policies are terrible and about how we treat people terrible and about how, all this stuff. Bad-mouthing us throughout the entire store to the point that the manager in charge gets involved, confronts the guy, tells him he has to settle down, and asks him to go clean up his mess. Refuses. And refuses to apologize for the chaotic mess that he's left. Keep in mind, he already broke a $5,000 deli door 2 weeks earlier. Now, he's out of control. He's like screaming, yelling, to the point they call me. Now, these women, they handle stuff. You're around me a lot. I don't get too many calls from there.
No. What Ryan is saying, he's being very nice. Those girls handle it. Like, if it has to be pretty extraordinary for Ryan ever to get a phone call.
Yes. So, anyways, guy, I said, put me on the phone with him. Just put me on the phone with him. Puts me on the phone. And I started off good. I said, what's the situation? And he admitted to it. He told me exactly what happened. He wasn't beating around the bush. He told me he urinated all over the place. Like just, sprayed the whole room with a hose. And so I said, well, we really do take it very seriously. I said, I would appreciate it if you'd clean it up. He said, I'm not cleaning up your messes. I'm not cleaning up the bathroom. And I said, and then now I'm mad. I said, well, now I said, on top of that, you're disrespecting my managers. I said, now, and he started yapping at me about how I need better policies, telling me how to run my store. Like, I said to him, I said, your house? He said, yeah. I said, what would you do if somebody came to your house, urinated all over your door handle of your car and all over your mailbox? You saw it happen. They admitted to it, and they refused to clean it up. And then they were sitting there telling you that you need to run your house a little better. How would you handle that? Well, that wouldn't happen. I said, yeah, that wouldn't happen. This shouldn't be happening. Then I got next level. I went into like, listen, man, you're going to lose your job if you don't answer this next question better. I said, are you going to apologize to these girls for disrespecting them as managers and not helping us uphold our clean floor, clean store policy? He said, I'm not doing any of that stuff. He said, you can't get me fired. I said, oh, that's funny. I said, watch me work. I said, I don't want to get you fired. I said, but you got a terrible attitude. You should not be in the role you're in. You need an education in how to handle the customer. I said, because I would never handle anybody like this. I would never disrespect anybody in their home or anybody in their business this way. I wouldn't disrespect you. I said, if I went by, I said, and I nicked your truck, I said, I would make it right. I said, I wouldn't tell you need to get better cones to protect your truck. I said, I would just make sure it was right. I said, you need an education. He said, he said, I don't need no education. I don't need any more out of you. Hung up. I call back. And I say he was on somebody else's phone. I say, listen, you tell him to get out of the store right now. You tell him never to come back in the store. I said, or he's getting arrested. I mean, this is somebody that services our store every day. And so I then proceed to call boss. Both of them thank me for calling because he's such a problem in their accounts. But here's the thing. In the modern world, the modern corporate world, it's so hard to fire somebody. And they know it. They know it. So they don't have any respect for anything. So you can't really manage. So guess what the solution was on their end? Which I applaud those gentlemen for taking care of us, catering to our requests. Now this person literally goes to every other place but ours in the route, and they have to send somebody else to service our spot. That was this company because of the modern corporate safety net that everybody's working in. That was the answer.
Yeah,
So there's my story.
That's a good story.
Guy peed all over the bathroom, didn't clean it up.
Well, it's not the first vendor he threw out of this tonic tanning.
No.
No. It's funny. Like, I always joke about Red Ryan. Red Ryan is this escalation of Ryan until he gets to the point where he can't control himself and he goes like his top just goes. So I'm sitting there, and mind you, our Leesburg office is very small, like our studio, and Ryan's on one side and the other, and I started hearing this conversation. And if you guys ever been in an earthquake, like you feel that like this, right? And then all of a sudden it gets more, and then it gets out of control. I compete with Ryan goes Red Ryan to very similar. Like I heard the whole conversation when I was seeing the thing, and I was like, well, that's weird. Uh-oh. Wait, what? Uh-oh. And then all of a sudden I heard like blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh. And I heard the thunder start. And I'm like, oh, geez. And then all of a sudden I hear, phone hangs up. I'm like, oh my God, it's Red Ryan. He's out. And Ryan's like, ah! And Dad's like, you're right. I'm like, ah! And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to kill somebody. So from a person in the audience who's been around you long enough in my life, I mean, I felt the tremors. I heard the thunder. I heard the lightning strike. And I'm like, this cowboy's cooked.
Well, that is how it works with me. I'm pretty calm, pretty cool, pretty laid back. But it's like the Meatloaf song. You can't do that. And the one thing I don't tolerate, and any good leader should not tolerate, you can't tolerate somebody disrespecting your crew that you entrust with a job of running your business or your team or whatever. If somebody wrongs them when they are trying to do right and they're trying to do it the right way and they are justified in the cause of whatever they're trying to do, and you get somebody that's trying to buck that, then it gets over their head. You have to hit that with everything you got. You gotta crush the soul of that person doing that to your people. And you got to make sure everybody in your corporation sees it. Everybody that services you sees it. Everybody that's around you sees it and feels the earthquake. Because that makes your people know that you got them, that you got their back, that Ryan's got me no matter what. Ryan's got me. And then it also tells everybody, hey, there's a standard. And if you don't meet the standard, it ain't going to be fun. So those two things are so important in an organization. So when one of those things or both are violated, That is one of the rare times that, man, and I do the same with my family. I mean, you've seen it. You've been on the receiving end of some of that. When something happens that I feel is just fundamentally not jiving, you got to strike, and you got to strike hard, and it's got to be memorable. Because I guarantee you, the vendors talk. You don't think all the chip guys and all the pop guys, I mean, I guarantee that story's been told all over central and western Pennsylvania. And now everybody knows when one of Ryan's managers tells me to do something, unless I plan on moving out of state or changing my name or hitting the Powerball that day, I better respect them.
I think this guy read your book because he knew the first trigger point was insult your manager. Then he's like, you know what? While we're here in this ocean with the sharks, I'm going to chum the waters. And you don't know what you're doing. And you're like, bow! It was, you know, not to say it wasn't warranted, but from a secondary observer, I was like, because I listened to the whole thing and I knew where this story was going to end. And I'm like, this guy, he's not going to do it. There's no way he's going to do it. He just told him buzz management style in his own store. Oh boy.
Oh, never insult a man. Never insult a man or a woman in their castle.
100%.
Every man or woman's house, every woman or man's car, every woman or man's role, job is their castle. And you don't go into their castle and tell them how to run their castle.
Gong it!
And now, guys, man, I'm still fired up.
This is going to be a heck of a retail trends. This is going to be really intense.
It's time for retail trends.
Be really intense.
I'm going to calm it down.
So, yeah, guys, this week we're talking. Ironically, we're blowing back to the Windy City and heading back into the 2026 bizarre market that's happening right now, but overall vacancy is still hovering in 4.9, but the inventory is incredibly tight. Inventory of store stuff.
How can inventory be tight if almost 5% of the market's vacant?
It's because retailers are abandoning their older traditional central business districts and fighting for tooth and nail for the space in the suburbs and specifically hot neighborhoods.
So it's basically a flight to quality.
Yeah, and it's a retail apocalypse for years, but you know what's happening now is that the landlords that own these older established areas are now jacking up the rent to the point where the only way to be competitive is if you keep, we all know, in retailers, two things you control: inventory and labor. And so they don't want to lose the experience because these very high-end neighborhoods, so they got to limit the inventory.
Wow. So if you're trying to expand, you're basically fighting somebody else over existing buildings.
Oh, existing buildings. And, you know, now the landlords have so much power over their subleases and leases that they set the market so high that the only way to be competitive is if you keep your inventory low.
Well, where's the hottest spots right now?
Hot spots at the Gold Coast, where it's over $300 a square foot. Now, for those guys that don't know, commercial real estate is annual times square foot. That doesn't include triple net lease with CAM and stuff. We'll talk about that later. But, you know, we're also seeing markets that are traditionally lower, like in the 10, going to 90 and 100. And so areas like DuPage, is it DuPage or DuPage?
DuPage, I think.
And Schaumburg are seeing rent grow because supply is in the constrained out there. You can't get enough places to rent.
Wow, Chicago. So if you're in Chicago, if you're an outsider, you're gonna be paying like $30 for a toothbrush.
Basically. And like the you know, places like the Loop and they call it the Loop and the Mag Mile are still struggling.
Yeah, the Loop's been rough, but there are signs of life. Vacancy rate actually dropped from 30% down to 28.5 heading into the year, and they had some big deals. Portillo's signed a lease. Barnes & Noble's coming back to State Street. I mean, you don't see Barnes & Noble going into too many spots nowadays.
No, it has to have a certain level of income and a certain level of education. And, you know, you're seeing the physical rate isn't dead. It's just recalibrating. The big box area is shrinking, and the smaller value-oriented chains like TJ Maxx and Burlington Coats are moving to backfill the space. But that's because new development is so expensive and high interest rates and the construction costs, existing premium retail spaces have become incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, there's even a Barnes & Noble going in on State Street, that great street. I just got to say, they do things that they don't do on Broadway. Tony Bennett.
Which leads us into another great thing that's happening. Ryan's grocery list of the week. Did you bring it?
Oh, I brought it.
What was that?
Is there a poor bird in there? No, there's not. My item of the week, and again, unsolicited. Is that right? Unsolicited? Unsponsored.
Unsolicited would be advice, but yeah.
Unsponsored. Unsponsored, man. This is just stuff I use and drink. 35 calories. No sugar. 3% of your carbs, man. Beautiful item. Cali water. Cactus water, baby. It's like tapping into a cacti. And just drinking right out of the arm.
Well, that's like a Coke commercial.
It's good, man.
Well, it's pretty interesting.
Very refreshing.
Everybody talked about the coconut water space and how it blew up. Well, Cali Water is aiming for the same space, but the prickly pear cactus, it started when actress Vanessa Hutchinson and Oliver Trevina, they've been friends for 15 years, launched a low-sugar, sustainable hydration option.
So they are. I mean, they're just like tapping in the cactus like a maple tree, just like Yanny. Is that what they're up to?
Oh, that's what they're doing, guys. But kind of. Basically, they use the fruit from the prickly pear cactus, the nopal, which is not the cactus. It's the fruit from the cactus. And what's cool about the process, they don't use concentrated purees. They actually turn the fruit into powder. They say it preserves the nutrients better and cuts down on food waste.
It's a powder mixed with water. But where are they getting all the cactuses?
Most of it comes to the Sonoran Desert down in Mexico. And their sustainability angle is huge for them. Prickly pear cactuses use 80% less water than traditional crops and grow very fast. The produce fruit is 3 to 5 years, and whereas coconut trees take 6 to 10. So just like grapes can take up to a decade. So from there, the environmental standpoint is a lot less intensive than coconut water.
And I know for a guy like me, you know, the pitch for me, what makes me drink this more than Gatorade or coconut water or anything else is the fact that it's sustainable. You know, everybody wants to, first of all, it's got to taste good, and it tastes good. Secondly, it's got to be healthy, and it's healthy. Third, it's sustainable. You know, I know that by drinking this, I'm conserving water and other resources. So it makes you feel good about the fact, okay, you know, and
Reusable container.
aluminum.
Yes, sir. And it's only 25 to 35 calories, depending on the flavor. It only has 5 grams of sugar, but the big claim to fame is it's a naturally occurring electrolytes and antioxidants. They push it for workout recovery, skin health, and here's the hook. Hangover cure.
So the next time I, decide to have a few glasses of Vina and enjoy a sunset and a nice night with the wife, I'm going to pound a couple of Cali waters, and all the problems the next day will go away.
You know, I took a little bit of Vanessa's advice. I use it as a mixer with bourbon to make like a lower calorie old fashioned.
Oh, actually, I should try that. That sounds good. I mean, it's just smart marketing in general, man. They got the celebrity backing, they got the sustainability angle, and they got health claims. We'll have to see, though. You know, we'll have to see the fight. Can the cactus overcome
the coconut?
Dun, 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 dun. And now, guys, it's time for Doug's retail story of the week.
Ron, do you feel that I've always been anti-establishment?
Yeah, you've always been kind of a pain in somebody's beep, including mine before I was about 30. But now I do think you're actually being wronged a lot. So I think maybe it's karma because you were kind of like,
yeah, I was.
But arguably, people were wronging you all of your life, and you were just getting a bad rap.
Right. Well, this all started back in circa 2009 when I was in charge of the Apollo store during a crucial time in our business history. So the Apollo store, for those who don't know, it's in a plaza, and the plaza is actually owned by the government. It's owned by the local borough. And so is the side street parking. So imagine the store is a box, and the front is owned by the town, and so is the side. So things happen, industry goes out, cost of doing good goes up, all that stuff. So their idea to solve the problem is let's put an exorbitant amount of parking meters in everywhere. So they're like, well, the parking meters help for improvement projects. And I'm like, okay. So they got this big grant, and the one guy was from Georgetown. You've been to Georgetown outside of DC, not quite Apollo. But this guy had this idea. We're going to put this beautiful, we're going to shrink the parking in your parking lot, and we're going to put in all these beautiful statues and pay homage to our soldiers. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds all right. I mean, I guess it can't be too bad. And when are you guys starting to do this project? They're like, well, we're going to start September. I'm like, oh, good. You wrapped the break for the holiday season. No. This is what started the rage. So, mind you, for about 4 months during the business time of year for us, which is the holiday season, Thanksgiving rolling into Christmas, the only way to get into the Saxonburg store location was across a hand-built OBS wooden plywood bridge with your car that you had to push over it over a 4-foot open trench.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So that was awful. So meanwhile, they hired this person who had no previous experience in borough management become the leader of the community.
Wait, was that the lady?
Frog legs.
Oh, yeah, I remember her.
So for name's sake, we'll call her Frog Legs because it's not appropriate to call her by her real name because we don't do that. But Frog Legs, we'll call her Frog Legs. She was in charge of the borough at this point, and she knew that the amount of revenue in directly reflected her revenue stream. And so, she wanted to make sure there's enough revenue. So they had this guy, sad story, there's this officer that was hurt in an injury, saving a kid in a pool. That the only job they could find for him is to collect tickets. He was very fair for the most part. And, in a town of less than 1,000 people, he'd go around and put tickets on people's cars.
I remember that guy.
Including mine. Good guy. This other guy, on the other hand, that Frog Legs hired, eventually got let go from the prison for misappropriating his duties in a women's prison, allegedly. And so
I don't think it is. I think he was actually.
Oh no, he was definitely clipped for that.
Yeah, he was tried, and
yeah.
It's not allegedly.
Yeah. So mind you, my loading docks and here's the accumulation of the two stories. I'll tell both stories, but the parking side was on the left side and mind you, I'm trying to run a store. Sales are down. People are stealing. Customers stealing. Employees are stealing. It's a nightmare. It's my first job. My assistant store manager, who was we were literally Maverick and Goose. Goose quits. It's just a nightmare for me. So it's a really trying time in my life, and I'm running the store. And so
plus, you're only 18 running the store,
right? No, there's that.
I mean, an 18-year-old trying to run a grocery store is
yeah, it was crazy. So I'm there on the store, and this ticketing thing keeps happening. Customers coming in, stop shopping at the store because this ticketing thing. And so we'll talk about that first, and then talk about Frog Legs in a second. But so the ticketing thing keeps happening, and so then the left side of the store, we actually had to hand unload trucks. They dropped the pallets. We had to take a a pallet jack manual. Dad didn't believe in automatic ones, down to the corner and pull it up a hill back into the store. So every truck, twice a week, you had to hand unload every single piece of grocery, frozen dairy, meat, produce.
You remember the meat? Carrying the 80 to 100-pound boxes of meat down those metal steps
in the wintertime.
Oh,
awful. So I was short on truck guys. I worked the truck, and so I left my truck in the loading dock, which was technically our loading dock because it was a loading area. I see a ticket on it, and I'm like, oh my God. So here comes this guy, and I'm like, hey man, I'm just unloading this stuff for the store. He's like, well, it's past 8 o'clock. You need to either pay the meter or everything. I'm like, I'm paying the taxes. And he's like, well, I'm not taking a ticket. You got to pay that ticket. It's like $5. I go back inside. He puts another one on, and then a third one. And so I go outside. I'm like, bro, what is your problem? I'm like, you're going to kill my store. I'm like, you think you're doing a good job ticketing all these people? He's like, talk to my boss. I'm like, Frog Legs? I'm like, no way. I'm not talking to Frog Legs. Frog Legs was such a bad person in the community. She had a sign put on her door that was so big. It said, if you yell at me or whatever, it's a federal offense and harassment charges, because so many people are so up in arms about this lady. They put a sign, but I'll tell you why they're mad about this lady.
I think there was a red light in her in the entrance of her house too.
Well, maybe. Allegedly. So anyway, so then Dad comes out, and Dad's pissed off. And Dad, just so everybody knows, has never, other than a speeding ticket, has never done any crimes. Like, he has no tickets, no criminal history. The guy Dad gets in this guy's face, and the guy, who is, mind you, is like probably 6'5", 6'8", big dude, goes to the police and presses charges for harassment on Dad. Presses charges for harassment on Dad, which they end up dropping because this guy's out of control, just a power-hungry idiot. So that was my ticketing thing. So eventually we lost the store that we had to sell to Dollar Tree or somebody, but we lost the store. But the best part about this, back to this remodeling, and this is why I have this vengeance for people that get into these powerful positions, that use it to feed their ego and don't understand that the people that work, the people that pay taxes, and the people that are investing their businesses in the community is what keeps the community running. Not somebody overseeing them, telling them how to do everything. And that aggravation of just that not like listening is the core. But the best part about it, so it has massive project, and you can still go to Apollo Day. I think it's still there. Right in the middle is this big monument to like the town, and in the it's a big granite monument, like a big cemetery monument. And half the size of this table is the name of Frog Legs and all the people that supposedly donated to this, and none of them are still there.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be veteran centered.
Yes,
but
and first responder. But it ended up being literally, look what we did using your money. Thank you. Meanwhile, they put our store out.
Well, that's the craziest thing. You know, that you're right. That is a lesson in like how to kill in-town business, because let's face it, we bought that store from Mary Kay and Joe Oliver. It was a thriving store. It was doing very well. It was sales were strong. That's why we bought it. And then it was like as soon as we bought it, they announced that project. Let's take our greatest weakness, which is parking, and let's just make it really bad. Let's just take a weakness, which is lack of parking, and cut down on more. And let's disrupt business in an area that's already kind of tough to get into. And then let's put these, neo-Nazi people in charge of, going around and assaulting everybody. Sending a 6'5" dude, prison guard around, violently slapping tickets on cars is not a good move. And then remember then they threw in the sewer project.
Oh yeah, during the same time.
Tore up the roads.
I
mean, it was almost like, how much can the Sprankles take here before they just...
Well, you notice downtown, Weibel's is gone. The liquor store is gone. The restaurant's gone. Other than Apollo...
That hardware store?
The hardware store? Other
That's
than
gone?
Other than Apollo Trust, all that's left is Dollar Trees. Dollar Tree, Dollar General, and Family Dollar.
Yeah.
But, so when you have a town of less than 1,000 people, you don't need 2 ticket officers.
No.
That's my story of the week.
That brings back some ferociously...
Well, you gotta be mad about the freaking guy in Katana, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? Let's go! Yeah,
this is definitely not a good... this is not a good episode for stress, because both of our stories just brought back a lot of... And, you wonder where I get where Doug gets the thing about making sure we're steadfast in supporting and being behind and having the backs of our family and our crew. I mean, look at that, man. Somebody messed with talk about 2 strikes, big strikes. Messed with his manager, and B, his son. Not good. Red Ryan is one thing, man. Red Randy was a whole other. It was like saying, oh, you got a barn cat that can get crazy, and then all of a sudden you bring in a freaking tiger that hasn't eaten in 3 months. I mean, that's the difference between Red Ryan and Red Randy and his hay.
And Dad's always the one preaching like, can we just be friends? We're gonna work through this emotionally. Let's forgive. And he's like this. Where's he at?
Yeah. Well, every parent has a little do as I say, not as I do in them,
Well, you know what, though? When I go over, mom and dad moved over to Sarver. When I go over and install those TVs, now I'm like, hand me the wrench!
Doug's going to drink 2 bottles of wine while installing 2 TVs.
I feel like I'm like hot. I'm like, this is down here.
I know, man. I'm fired up.
It's like 44
I mean,
degrees.
look at my face is red right now. I'm like ready to go. I'm like, can you believe these? Sorry for the beep there, Noah. But yeah.
And congratulations on the engagement.
Yeah, congratulations, Noah, again on the engagement. Big things. Emma's a great girl. You guys are gonna have a great life together. It's been fun watching that relationship.
But guys, it was a great week. You know what also gets us really fired up is the fact that they might be taking skill games away if they don't get legislation passed in the next 80 days. Our friends at PA Skill Alliance are working hard, side by side, arm to arm, shoulder to shoulder with our friends at VFW's American Legions and guys like us to promote fair, equitable skill games across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Check them out at paskillalliance.org. Remember, it's skill, not luck, baby.
And hey, guys, remember, it helps the cast. It helps us to be able to keep telling these great stories. Go to all the social media platforms. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Continue to like, share, tell your friends about the cast. The more it moves forward, the more we can get eyes on it, the better chance we have of continuing to tell these great stories.
And a big shout out to our phenomenal guest, Jeff Verszyla. Thank you so much. Check him out, guys. Get your weather. Stop looking at the apps. The apps cause anxiety. Check him out, the Whiteboard Weather, guys. He's on Facebook. We're going to start sharing on our Sprinkle page a couple times a week. Looking forward to that. Restarting Monday.
Yep. It's a great episode. Great guest. Doug and I got a little fired up. It's been fun sharing this all with you guys. Thanks for watching the Checked Out podcast. We'll see you next time. And remember, guys, we can't do what we do without you.
Come and see us. I think you have a transfer for $76, by the way.
What do you mean?
Sitting here at my desk.
Huh?
Right here, $76 transfer from you.
For what?
I don't know.
Strange.
Watermelons.
What?